Hey, what's happening, Amazing Race fans? This is the Amazing Reviews, reviewing season 37, episode 3. I'm your host, Hurls, and joining me tonight is none other than Calbert. Calbert, what's up?
What's going on, everybody?
What a interesting episode from Osaka, Japan this week, wouldn't you say?
I would. It was kind of interesting. I was not the biggest fan of this week's episode.
Now, I don't think it was the most entertaining, that's for sure. But there was quite a bit that happened, even though it wasn't like the most thrilling episode. But there were some things that definitely need to be discussed, and I think we both got thoughts on the detour. Yeah, because that's a problem when you got one, nobody can finish one side of it.
Yeah.
So they I don't know. I think they may have taken that one a little too hard. But I understand it, because if you did the blow darts and the stars, maybe that would have been too easy. But anywho's, let's why don't we begin from the start and kind of go over that. So episode 3, we start off. Episode 3, we start off at the start of the leg. Teams were instructed to travel by bullet train to Kyoto. Once there, teams found their next clue at the Shimogamo Shrine. There, teams had to buy a sheet of fortune paper called Oi Mikuji and dip it into the water to reveal their next destination, the Shiramine Shrine. This part was kind of cool. I'd always want to go on a bullet train. Calbert, have you ever been on a bullet train?
I've been on a bullet train. I also thought it was kind of cool that that's how they kind of got their clue, was dipping it in the water. That was kind of a cool way to kind of get it.
Yeah, I agree. That was really unique.
So
I thought it was kind of funny. It was who was that? What was our team name? It seemed like Courtney and Jasmine didn't really know what to do. And same with Bernie and Kerrigan. Both teams kind of seem lost,
Right.
So, but yeah. Anyways, so then from there they get the clue, dipping in water. And then in this leg's roadblock, one team member had to play Kamari, a game similar to Hacky Sack, and complete 5 passes of a ball among 3 other players before receiving their next clue. One team had the option of winning an express pass if both team members could complete the roadblock, which was won by Jonathan and Anna. So thoughts on the roadblock and thoughts on getting the express pass?
I didn't think Anna was going to be able to complete it, if you want my honest opinion. That's my team. I wasn't sure she was going to be able to do it. And Jonathan had every right to be upset, because I also thought it was interesting because they weren't technically the first team to get there. Because Scott and Lori completed it, and they were like, well, screw it, no big deal. I thought that was kind of interesting. I thought Scott and Lori were probably going to get it given the time that they were there, so because technically Jonathan and Anna were technically third at that point. So
well, they were the first team to arrive to the roadblock.
True.
They just weren't the first team to get out of there, because they Scott and Lori just were like, Lori didn't think she could have gotten it.
Right.
Which I don't know. I think at that point you see 3 teams, you're in the front. I think you stay until you see a winner. That's just my goal. I think the express pass can be a game changer, because you run in. I know you only get a certain amount of time to use it, but if you run into that challenge where it's just like, oh boy, you can't get out of it, why not have that one express pass and just use it? So I think it was worth it, but I think I liked what Carson and Jack did. They did it until they saw someone win. So
Yep.
So yeah, that was basically it. So did you like the fact that the express pass. Now, normally it's at a different location or it's an alternative task that they have to do. I remember, was it 2 seasons ago where they had to eat all those bugs?
Yep. Yep.
And I believe they had it, first episode or second? It was really early.
Yep. Yep.
So this was kind of different where it was kind of both team members had to complete this task to get it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you got to be pretty happy with your team getting that,
Yeah. Yeah.
So, also I got to ask Jonathan. He seems very frustrated if things don't go his way. Have you noticed that?
He's also very competitive. Very competitive.
Yes.
Because I basically equated it to basically a bigger version of hacky sack. That's kind of what I equated it to. That's basically what it was. It was just a big version of hacky sack. But yeah, he's incredibly competitive, and he does not like it when things do not go smoothly. It looks like 3 episodes in,
right?
Which is concerning because yes, you want to be competitive. Yes, you want to have determination and fire and all that, but you want to keep a level head. And I mean, don't get me, that would have been hard for me. I'm not great at soccer. I could probably do like 1 or 2, and then just like everybody else, go, oh crap, I got to do it again. So. But yeah, I thought it was interesting. I have a feeling they're probably going to hold on to it. If I were to guess, that they're going to hold on to it, and we'll see what happens with it. But yeah, very competitive, very, very frustrating right out of the gate. So.
Yeah, I think you want to hold on to it as long as you can, but obviously certain things. I remember the last team, the girl team that won it, they had to use it at a really terrible time when they were in those boats. I don't know if you remember that, but they had to use it then, and they didn't use it right away, I don't think.
Correct.
So it was a very bad strategy by them. So, hopefully we'll see how they use it going forward. I think could be interesting, So, but anyways, let's talk to the meat and the potatoes of this episode. After the roadblock, teams had to travel by taxi to Yasaka Koshin-do and find their next clue. This leg's detour was a choice between fold it or fling it. In fold it, teams had to fold a human-sized origami crane before receiving their next clue. In fling it, teams had to dress as ninjas, and then both team members had to throw 3 shuriken stars, throw 3 bow shuriken spikes, and blow 3 fukabari darts using a fukiya into a target before receiving their next clue. And sorry I butchered that, but hey, it is what it is.
It is fine.
So yeah, this was kind of interesting. There's a lot to go over in this detour. There's still some things to talk about the roadblock too. Like, let's talk about Jasmine and Courtney, or Jasmine. Jasmine and Courtney. Courtney, or maybe it was Jasmine. Jasmine struggled horribly at the roadblock. I mean, wouldn't it have made more sense for Courtney to do it, because she talked about how she at least played basketball? So I feel like she would have been the more athletic of the two to do that task.
Yeah, I thought that was surprising. I thought that was interesting. And I mean, that's the downside of making the choice right away, is once you decide, okay, I'm doing it, like you're stuck. I mean, and if you know your partner's going to struggle. Now, she could have been a little bit more adamant about like saying, no, I think I can give this a shot, but she chose not to. And both these decisions for me, I just was like, wow, for the 3rd episode, both these were tough.
Yeah.
Tough to, I mean, like a human origami, basically, I mean, it was the size of Texas. I mean, I remember doing a little origami for that Japanese studying that I did.
Yes.
In class, but like, it wasn't like this. And that other task, man, you had to be perfect because they only give you 3 of each 3 stars,
Mm-hmm.
three darts, 3 of the other thing.
The ninja stars. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean,
Yep.
it's you had to be perfect, and it was you could tell, or at least I could tell, even at the practice spots, like this isn't like doing darts because everybody's like, oh, it's kind of like doing darts. No, it's not. A dartboard is bigger. This is like basically a wood cutout little target that you're trying to hit.
Yeah.
Wood
Yeah. That
circle,
was exactly. And darts are like meant for the dart to go in there. It kind of feels
Mm-hmm.
like those spikes were not even, you had to get them almost perfectly to get them in there.
Yeah.
I mean, so many teams struggle with that. I almost feel like it, the way that so many teams struggle with it and they couldn't get it. It's just
Mm-hmm.
like, I wonder if they really prepped for this task, because not one team completed it. Now, granted, not everybody tried it, but still, you know what I mean? Like,
Well, yeah,
how is
and
there such a discrepancy between these two tasks?
when you're at your 22nd attempt, which I believe that was your team that was at number 22 at that point, going, now I appreciate their stick-to-itiveness, but like, okay, we know from any show, especially a competition show like this, the producers try the events beforehand to see if it can actually be done.
Yep.
So how was it done? Because we never get to see it. After the 5th time, I would have been just like Alyssa, going, screw it, we can't do this.
Right.
Frustrated we can't do this, but like, we can't. We gotta go to the other one. And luckily, which I thought was also interesting, they were fairly close to each other. So it wasn't like one was on one side and one was on the other side of town, because that would have changed things, I think, too. But yeah, I mean, I would like to know how somebody did that. I mean, we always kind of see in the detour, like, it's accomplished, but we don't really get to see kind of it's sped up, but it's like how it's done, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, I wouldn't have been able to do that. I mean, both of them. I think that's kind of the reason why I had such a kind of sour taste in my mouth, because normally for the 3rd episode, both tasks aren't this hard.
Yeah.
I thought they were difficult. I'll say difficult. They weren't hard. They're difficult.
Yep.
Which I thought was an interesting tactic to do for the 3rd episode. We don't normally see this in Amazing Race, where both these are like, where I'm going, boy, both these kind of suck. It doesn't really matter which one we choose,
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I understand what they're trying to go for, because the origami, you got to follow the steps. You have to do everything basically the right folds. And the other task was more of the skill-based one.
Mm-hmm.
It's you can't just, willy-nilly it. You
Mm-hmm.
really do have to focus, but you would think at least one team would be able to figure that out.
Right.
And not one team did.
No.
And
it wasn't for it's because Mark tried too.
Yes, they did.
Brett and Mark tried too, and they couldn't do it. And for them to go, well, we tried,
Yep.
Carson and Jack tried it too, and they were like, nope. But at least they figured out, like, right away, okay, like, oh, hey, that's kind of different from when we were doing it, when we were practicing it. Wow, okay.
Correct.
They figured out right away, okay, this is, screw it, we'll just do the other one.
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly. I think that was Alyssa and Josiah's problem, is they didn't switch quick enough. And this was the time to do the switch, because the buildings were right next to each other. The tasks were right next to each other. Mm-hmm. So this was an easy switch.
Right.
I think they should have did it quicker, but they even said, like, their pride got the best of them. And I can understand that,
Yep.
They obviously seem like they're more of the sporty type, so they're going to want to pick more of the sporty type tasks.
Yep.
But that's, you can't just go thinking like every sport type is going to be the same, because they're not, and there's going to be some that are going to be easy, and then there's going to be some that are pretty tough. So,
right.
Yeah. So it was crazy how not one team could figure this out. It would have been interesting if they would have made that the roadblock,
Yeah,
right? Where
yeah,
teams had to do it that way. I
yeah,
wonder how long they'd be there, but I think
yeah.
that would be really interesting if that was the
Hmm.
roadblock. So, but it was not. So the origami challenge was it.
Would would
Um,
would you
yeah.
would you have tried which? Okay, so let's say it's you. Which one would you which one would you have done? Would you have done the origami or would you have done the?
Well, it really depends on who I'm with, what
Hmm.
their strengths were. But if it's just me, willy nilly, or just me, like just my likes and
Hmm.
whatnot, I probably would have went fling it
Hmm.
because I would have thought I could. I mean, the blow darts didn't seem hard. The ninja
Right.
stars don't seem hard, but those like spikes, those
Hmm.
seemed almost impossible.
Hmm.
But I could have told you right away if I had a lead on any of the teams and I wasn't getting this, I would have switched
Yeah.
right away. I think
So
you got. I think you got to.
I would have done folded only because not to say that fling wouldn't have been a cool attempt,
Yes.
but folded I can at least control the paper easier.
Yeah.
Right. It's not like, and I think it was, I'm trying to remember which team it was. It's not like throwing a newspaper. Like it's not like throwing a dart where it's kind of a more upward motion type throw. It's like a more downward motion type throw. So at least with the paper, I can control that easier, right? I can look at the kid making the origami, and okay, this is kind of all right. This fold goes this way. This fold goes that way. Okay, that crease goes this way. It's got to be a little bit straight. I can work with that a little bit more. Not to say that both wouldn't have been bad because they would have been. It's just that if it was just me as an individual, origami would have been probably easier, and I would have tried that and still struggled. But at least I can work with the paper better. Trying to trick my brain into going, okay, it's not like throwing a ball. It's not even like throwing a paper. It's paper airplane. It's smaller, right? So it should go where I want it to, but it doesn't. It doesn't really do that. The stars in particular really didn't do. You know, they went to throw it one way and it went a completely different direction.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, exactly. We didn't really even see the stars much because
yeah,
they couldn't get past the spikes. Like we saw the blow darts,
true, true.
but yeah, we couldn't even really see the stars. I think the stars would have been better,
Hmm.
but the fact that you had to get them all in
Hmm.
one sitting, that
Yeah,
just made it super tough. So, yeah, 22 attempts though, that is a lot. I think you got to switch. If it's
yeah,
not going, you got to switch.
yeah.
Granted that this is earlier in the season or in
Hmm.
the legs, so you had more teams, so they had probably they probably thought, well, we have a greater chance to keep
Right.
going, but um, I think I would have switched a little sooner. I mean, 22 is a lot, and it's just
Went to
not
it.
working. Yep.
Yeah.
So I think eventually they finally made the right decision. The origami takes time, but at least you can kind of go at your pace. And as long as you were paying attention and you got the right direction, you were fine.
Hmm.
Um, let's talk about some of the teams here. Any team in the origami that just really impressed you? I think we have to talk about Scott and Laurie, right?
I was gonna say Scott and Lori. Yeah,
Yeah.
they went. All right, we're doing this right away, and it was like pretty much almost on the second try they got it.
Mm-hmm.
It you know, and it was just like they knew almost exactly what to do. Like they've done it before. And
Yes.
I think Scott even mentioned about like doing paper airplanes. Well, that's not exactly what they're doing, but it's kind of like that as far as like the crispness of it. And I did notice that for my team,
Yes.
Jonathan admitted like, okay, you're going to pick the detours from now on.
Yeah.
Well, that was big considering he
Yeah. They
hadn't said anything
switched pretty
like that.
quickly.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So, but yeah, Scott and Lori were really, really impressive to me. Really impressive. I was like,
Though I don't know if I like that though. Like I don't know if I like that he's just defaulting to her to pick the tasks going forward. because there's going to be a time when she's going to pick the wrong one, and then he's going to get super frustrated. You can already see it. Like when they were even doing the origami, he was getting upset.
Yeah.
He's to me, if things don't go the way they're supposed to, he's going to have a meltdown.
I think I think it could just be for just talk right now. I mean, I don't know, right? It sounds like talk. I have a feeling that like it's not going to be like, oh, we're just going to alternate, or it's not going to. I don't. It doesn't look like it's going to be, like a Bernie Kerrigan situation yet. I think he can say like, I think we should do this one because of this. Like he'll take her input and say like, I think we can do this one, and I think this one will be easier or less challenging.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't see him just saying the competitive end, the competitor in him. I don't think we'll let him just say, well, you're just picking them all from now on. I think that was just something that he just said.
Oh, sure. Said in the moment, kind of, just to kind of, Well, the couple of things I picked up on from them this episode is I still haven't forgotten that they were separated for a year.
Mm-hmm.
2, she said, I need him to go away because of the negative energy when she was doing the basically the soccer hacky sack challenge. And but she also said, like, I don't respond because it's going to go 1-2 ways. We're either going to have a giant blow up or it's just going to blow over. Right. So she's kind of moved on from combating his attitudes. They're a very good team, but they're going to have to keep it in check,
Yeah.
So that's one thing to watch. I'm not saying they can't go all the way and win it, because they definitely can, but it's all going to be dependent on how is she going to handle the situation, and then if she actually says something back to him, how is he going to react? Because he's the one who's getting the negativity in the team. Right. So I think obviously the express pass, that's huge for them. So if they do get caught in another task where they're kind of bickering, they can just use that and there you go, Yeah. So that's just one thing to watch, but they are running a really good race, and there's really, you really can't say anything too bad about them right now, but it's just one that I think is kind of interesting. Jack and Carson, they've been running a pretty solid race as well.
They really have, and you know what, Popson Jr. ran a good race too.
Yes. Well, they're I mean, I think we got to give. Well, I think obviously, you got Scott and Lori. Your first instinct was correct about them. We should have stuck with them, because they're really proving us wrong, and they are making the right moves with their age. They are taking the right tasks, making the right moves. So, you got to give them credit for that. Right. But going to Pops and Jeff. The move that they made in the train station, even switching places with people, that's a huge move, Get on a ticket, get a little quicker. Looks like they got a alliance with Melinda and Erica.
Which they're kind of surprising too. I did not think that they had another good week this week. I did not think they were going to do as well as they've done, but you know what?
Yeah. Fourth place
is pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, Erica's she's very athletic. So, I mean, if she's got to carry her mom, so be it. But they crushed it this week, Fourth place, got to give them credit. So Pops and Jeff, Melinda, Erica got a little alliance going. I mean, that's fine. I don't mind 2-man alliances. It's just when we get to like the 3s and the 4s and the 5s, that's when I do not like alliances.
I think it's okay for right now. I mean, I think it's a little early for that. That was my thought. I was like, that's a little early to be kind of teaming up with each other. All right.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is. You're at the point where it's surviving and advancing right now. I mean, but I do think it's interesting. I I could see, obviously it's going to happen, I think, as the season goes on, I think. But yeah, I agree. I think that 2 is fine. When it gets to like 4, that's just too many.
Yeah, the Mine Five, and then we
Mm-hmm.
had last season we had a little bit of that with Walla Walla and Rod Gardner. But yeah, I don't mind it. I mean, I get it. Like they've been paired by each other for the last 2 episodes, so they've kind of got a bond going. And if they're gonna help each other out, so be it, But
Right.
we'll see. You never know with the alliances when they get split up, and then it's not really on anymore.
Right.
So, so any other teams that we really want to talk about? Brett and Mark quietly moving up 4 spots. Now they were my number 1 team last week for the power rankings. Will they be this week? Stay tuned. But I thought they had a pretty good week. I mean, considering they were in the back of the pack, and then pretty much, I think what really helped them is they picked the right detour.
Yep.
And they were able to just kind of pass some of those teams that picked the wrong detour.
Yep.
So they're climbing back to, I don't want to say the top, but they're definitely in like the upper middle. So thought they had a pretty solid week, but they had a little bickering too. Little bickering at the origami. Not much, but a little bit.
Yeah, I think one of them had an idea in their head of like how it was supposed to go, and then even though they couldn't do stick figures, which I thought was funny because I can't do stick figures either. But like, yeah, I mean, so okay, you don't know exactly what you're doing, but now we're gonna critique. Okay, that's a fun way to go about it.
Yes. We got to talk about Nick and Mike because I think these two are hilarious. What do you think about meditating during a race?
Very interesting. I actually thought, I was like, if you meditate for too long, you could get passed.
Yeah.
I did think it was. Now, granted, I mean, it does work, but I thought that was an interesting time to do it.
Yeah. And they ended up switching anyway.
Yeah. So if you're going to just meditate, you could, what? I'm sure you could have meditated while you were watching the kid do the origami, or watching the group do the origami. Because you're putting it together at that point. So, I thought that was. I kind of chuckled. I went, okay, all right, hey, if it works, which it works for them. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, it was kind of interesting too. One of them said that they were assaulted in 2015. Yeah, that was kind of crazy. I'm not surprised though, being in New York. I mean, you gotta watch your back there.
Especially in Brooklyn.
Yes, absolutely. Especially on the subway. You see all those crazy subway videos. But those two, man, they crack me up. I was laughing at the comment where their mom still folds their clothes. That was pretty funny.
I laughed at that point too. Yeah.
Yep. That was good stuff. They obviously were very frustrated at the origami, but they were able to figure it out, and they helped out Han and Holden. They also kind of had a little alliance with Han and Holden.
I thought that was really surprising. I really did. I was like, "Oh, you're gonna help, huh?"
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that was interesting time to do it.
Yeah. Well, I think what happened was when they decided to help each other, because they knew they had the two behind them.
Yeah.
They're just like, let's just help each other and, survive in advance kind of thing. Han and Holden, now these two, were, oh my goodness. I mean, they have to be, Nick and Mike were pretty funny, but then Han and Holden were kind of like the opposites, where they were really saying some nasty things. But I actually thought they were running a pretty good race until they got to the origami. Like getting a taxi at the hotel, that was smart. Not trying to just do it on the street. And then I thought, obviously, with Holden doing the soccer challenge, hacky sack, that was smart too. He crushed it.
Yeah.
But then they get to the origami and it's like, oh man, it just starts unraveling. And some of the things they were saying to each other, I was like, whoa.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting too, because everybody was like, everybody that kind of did the origami went, I kind of remember doing this when I was like 10.
Yes.
In the back, which is pretty much for me. I kind of remember doing, like, it wasn't anything like that, but yeah, I mean, you do the swan, right? That's usually a typical origami looking shape. But yeah, I thought that was interesting. I was like, wow, and they are. I don't know how they're still there, because I was like, they're going to get eliminated because Courtney and Jasmine are going to catch them. At
Yeah,
this,
well, I mean, compared to the brother and sister team that we kind of compared them to last season,
yeah,
they're a little more competitive.
yeah,
I think
yeah,
they're a little bit more competitive. They're not great because they're not they rarely when things go bad, they go bad for them, but they are
yes,
hanging on. And I mean they have made some smarter moves like getting the taxi at the hotel and they crushed the roadblocks. So I got to give them some credit, but man, they just took 2 steps back.
mm-hmm,
1 step forward, 2 steps back with them.
mm-hmm,
So I don't I don't think they're in for much longer, but I got to give them some credit because I mean we thought almost they'd be out by now.
sure, yeah, true,
So all right. Then the other one I kind of want to mention is Bernie and Kerrigan. Um, yeah, they're just I don't know what it is with them. They struggled obviously on the roadblock. That took some time.
mm-hmm,
But there's nothing that's like they're not impressing me too much. Like they clearly don't trust each other when making decisions. You can clearly see it.
yeah,
I mean, they did the ninja challenge and then they talked about switching again, and they didn't seem very happy about that. And they didn't do the origami challenge that bad.
no,
They actually did it pretty quickly. They
true,
would have done it quicker if they had the right side.
true,
Um,
true,
but
and once I was opposite, if they would have turned one the other
yes,
way, yeah,
they would have been fine.
yeah, yeah,
But clearly, like when they got to the mat, I'm not sure if it was Bernie. I think it was Bernie. She was crying.
yeah,
So they're not having a good race right now.
no,
We've
they're not,
seen 2 out of the 3 episodes where they have really come over some adversity, but it's real. The race is taking a toll on them already.
they look exhausted. They have
Yes,
absolutely no I looked at their face and I went, they have no confidence. They
correct.
they're just they're not even, it's not even they're happy to be here.
Right.
They're they are beaten down mentally, physically, emotionally right now. And they're only three.
Yes. They're not having fun. They're not
No.
having fun at all. And you can kind of tell it like they're not the most emotional,
No.
but they're just something with them that there's just something's not clicking with these two.
Right.
And I feel there's dissension with them too
Mm-hmm.
because they have not shown that they've worked as a team yet.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what's going on. And I honestly think they could be a better team than they are.
Mm-hmm.
They're just I don't know, they're just not working. And at least obviously we have they only show us what they want to show us, right? So
Sure.
maybe we're only seeing the bad stuff, but
Sure.
that was right now. It's just like the body language is not good. So
Right. Right.
and I think we got to talk about obviously the last place team, Jackie and Lauren, or I'm sorry, Courtney and Jasmine. Um, these two to me, they're just kind of I don't know what the word, too laid back. I mean, then you can't take forever grabbing a taxi.
Yeah, I think that's the problem. Yeah, I think that
Yeah.
was the problem. They just they when they took a step forward, they took 3 steps back.
Yep. Yep.
Because I mean that's what happened. Like, okay, like, you have to hit the hacky sack or the soccer ball. Sorry, the soccer challenge. Okay, we're in last. We pretty much have one shot to really do this really, really well. And when that didn't happen, and I think one of them went up into a tree, basically.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
you're going, okay, it's going to be a long day. And I mean, and they and then they get to the origami and they missed, I think one edge wasn't, if I remember correctly, one edge wasn't as smooth as it could have been. Right.
Yes.
And with origami, that's things you got to be, it's attention to detail. So, I felt bad for him, but yeah.
This team was kind of where I thought they'd be.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had them, I think I might have even predicted them one of the first teams out, but I was actually pretty surprised that they got this far. I don't know. And then when I saw them, it was like, okay, yeah, they're not in it for a long time, especially when they couldn't grab a taxi, but there's not really much to say. I respect their story, and where she had to move back home to take care of her mom. I respect that. I respect them being in the healthcare field. But it's just as far as like racers go, they just didn't have that killer instinct, I guess.
Right.
So, but why don't we go over the last part of the episode here, and then we'll talk about the standings. So then after the detour, teams had to check in at the pit stop. Kanakai Komoyo Yi. Sorry for the bad butchering again. There, Kogan informed teams of a new element in the next leg, the driver's seat. We will get to that. Just hold your thoughts. But first place, we had Scott and Lori, who moved up one spot from last week. Carson and Jack, who moved up 2 spots from last week. Jonathan and Anna, who moved down 2 spots, but also got the express pass. Moving up 1 spot this week to 4th was Melinda and Erica. Then Brett and Mark had probably the biggest increase, moving up 4 spots from 9th to 5th. And then Pops and Jeff moving up 1 spot to 6th. Lissa and Josiah moving down 4 spots from 3rd to 7th. Nick and Mike moving up 2 spots from 10th to 8th. Han and Holden moving up 2 spots from 11th to 9th. Bernie and Kerrigan moving down 2 spots from 8th to 10th. And Courtney and Jasmine, who moved down 5 spots from last week, from 6th to 11th, and they are eliminated. So, kind of went over the surprises of this week. But if you had one surprise this week, what was your surprise?
Probably that Scott and Lori finished first. And then finding out about the driver's seat, because no one knows what that is.
Yes.
And even in, I'm not going to ruin anything by saying this, but the preview to the episode for next week, which by the way they're going to a different country, doesn't really say. Doesn't really give a whole lot. It doesn't. I mean, it really just, and it basically says the first team to arrive must make a difficult decision. Well, yeah. What does that mean? I understand that. I understood what Phil said when he said it. Okay, so you're going to make it harder for every other team in the episode. I got that part too. I understood that. How are you going to make it harder?
Yeah.
Because it already looks hard enough as it is. Because it looks like it's a stick shift Jeep that they have to drive in, which we know how that goes for everybody.
Oh
which is generally not very good for a lot of them. So it's interesting. I'm interested, right?
Yeah.
So you got my attention.
Yes.
You got my interest, but I don't know what that means.
Right.
And that's why everybody getting the same look going, whoa, okay, wow, cool. What does that mean?
Yeah, I mean, if I had to guess, it's like you're going to make some teams do more to get the next clue.
Yeah.
I'm guessing, instead of baling 2 bales of hay, you're going to have to do, some teams are going to have to do 4.
Sure.
Or, I'm just giving an example here.
Sure.
So it looks like Pops and Jeff are one of the teams that's going to have to do more, I guess, from just reading the previews.
Yep.
So, but I mean, the previews don't mean anything. Obviously, if you looked at last week's preview, you would have thought my team was going out this week. But obviously they weren't I mean, they weren't close to going out. So, I
Right.
mean, they were, they moved down, but they weren't close to going out. So, we really don't know from the previews. I think a lot of times the previews just don't share everything.
Sure.
So, who knows? But it is an interesting concept. And I'm guessing
Mhm.
it's going to be like the Express Pass, where it's going to be the first team gets there. They're going to get to decide on what's going to happen.
Yeah,
So,
and the fall
yeah.
and the week also interesting. I've already read the preview for the following week. That's even more interesting.
We'll
I
say,
won't, but
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, save it for the end here.
Yeah.
But let's get into our power rankings, because I think we've got another week now where we can go off of, and maybe a little bit more clear, even though I don't think it's very clear at all, because we've had three new winners. We've had three different first place finishes. So
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to be pretty tough. But all right, let's start. I will start this week with number 10. So, okay. So this is actually kind of tough for me, because I'm in between two teams right here. I'm in
Okay.
between Bernie and Kerrigan and Han and Holden.
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly don't know what team is worse or which team is better, because I see faults in both of them. They're both fighting teams. And I, I guess I'm going to have to go Bernie and Kerrigan, but I had them a lot. I had them rated higher than Han and Holden to start the season. And I
Mm-hmm.
and I want to say, if they get on the same page, they could be really good. And I feel like you could say the same about Han and Holden, but I feel like Han and Holden always have that brother sister dynamic where they're gonna fight.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Bernie and Kerrigan aren't brother and sister, they're not even sisters. So I feel like if they could get their crap together, they could be a decent team. But we have not seen it yet. So I got to go Bernie and Kerrigan. I think if they don't get it together, they're out next week. Calvert,
I got Burn.
you're number
Yeah,
10.
yeah, I got Bernie and Kerrigan also for pretty much the same reason you said. They they don't want it. At least with Han and Holden,
Yes.
they are frustrated at each other,
Yep.
but they want it.
Yep.
I mean, you're right. Like, I don't have Han and Holden very much further. I'll save you now. Han and Holden, I have at 9. It's just because they made one smarter move than Bernie and Kerrigan did by getting the cap. That's
Yep.
it. That's the only reason.
Yep.
You know, Bernie and Kerrigan look like they're just going to look like, when they get eliminated, because I think it's going to be this week. I don't know anything. I think it's going to be this week. Um, they're just going to go deuces. See you when we get home. You
Yep.
know, and that's going to be it. Like they can't even decide what tasks to do. At least Han and Holden go and they stand there and they read the clue and go, okay, we're going to do this one, and then they try it and see what happens. Now, granted, they're arguing while they're doing it when they're at the task, unlike Bernie and Kerrigan, who are arguing at the box of the clue. You know.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, I have Bernie and Kerrigan at 10 and Han and Holden at 9.
Yeah, they show some fire. Like
Mm-hmm.
they get excited when, I've seen Han compliment Holden when he made that decision to go to the hotel and get the cab there.
Mm-hmm.
And they want it. They
Yeah,
want it. And they're fighting because they want it. That's competitiveness. And
sure.
that's why I would think why they would be able to at least beat Bernie and Kerrigan. So my number 9 is Han and Holden. Um, could I see Han and Holden getting like a lucky leg here and there? Sure, where they survive a little more than they're supposed to be. But yes, but I got them at 9. I don't think they're in it too much longer, but I think they survive next week. So I think Han and Holden, I think they wanted a little more, so I got them at 9. So my number 8, oh boy, I guess I gotta go Nick and Mike. they just can't seem to get it together
Mm-hmm.
either. They
Mm-hmm.
can't. I want to rank them higher, but they're not. They haven't shown that they can finish high.
Right.
So I got to keep them at 8. I don't. I just can't. They're like above those two, Bernie and Kerrigan and Hannah Oldham. But other than that, they're not passing anybody. So for now, they're 8 for me.
Yeah, I have for 8. I also have Nick and Mike. Just because, like, luckily, when they were meditating, there was no other teams, behind them. So, I mean, they caught a break, but I I think I would consider themselves kind of a little bit lucky. But yeah, they're kind of stuck in the mud. They kind of take 3 steps forward, and then they take 1 step back, and they're stuck in quicksand, and they can't turn the tire enough to get out of the quicksand. They get stuck more. So that's my 8. For 7, this is just this week. I believe that Alyssa and Josiah, your team, will bounce back, but they didn't have a good week this week. 22 attempts at something is a lot, so I have Alyssa and Josiah at 7.
Okay. 7 for me. I'm going to put Melinda and Erica. It's a matter of time before Melinda just has to do some physical challenge.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. I just think the eyeball test, like, yeah, they had a 4th place finish, but like, do we really buy that they're going to be that in the top? I mean, Erica is, clearly going to carry them to higher ranking with the physical challenges, but Melinda, I just don't have any faith that they're going to be able to go higher. So as of
Sure.
right now, they're my 7. Number 6, sixth, I think I am going to go with. I think I have to take Pops and Jeff, um, which is basically around there, where they finished.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're good, and I had them in the preseason taking 4th. But I don't know. They made it the right move with the detour, but
Mm-hmm.
eyeball test as of right now, I got them at 6. Who do you got? Six.
I have Pops and Jeff at 6. They are much better than I thought they would be, because I had
Mm-hmm.
them kind of towards the bottom of my power rankings. I remember that, and they've kind of impressed me. I'm not gonna lie. I got them at 6. 5, I'll take Melinda and Erica, but I agree with you. At some point, Mom's gonna have to do something.
Yes.
Daughter can't do everything. Mom is gonna have to do something. So it's a temporary spot for right now for me for 5 with Melinda and Erica.
All right. For 5, as of right now, I'm gonna go Alyssa and Josiah. I'm not taking them down too much. I think I had them at 3rd last week, so I got them at 5th this week. They probably should have switched detours, but I honestly think they're going to bounce back next week. But 5th, I think I got them at 5. I just think they had a rough detour, but probably should have switched a little sooner. But I'm also not going to default. I'm not going to knock a lot of points off when no other team could finish that challenge.
Mm-hmm.
So I still got them at 5. I think they're one of the most athletic teams in the competition. I think they'll figure it out. 4. 4 right now, I am going to go with Scott and Lori.
Okay.
Yeah, they had a 1st place finish, but again, I they're gonna have some adversity coming up here. I feel it with them. They are pretty impressive, I will say that. They've done some smart things, but I'm still not kind of buying that hype. I'm not just gonna put them at 1 because they finished 1 this week. I'm
Sure.
gonna put them at 4.
Sure.
Yep.
4, I have Brett and Mark. They bounce back well, as we talked about earlier. I think they've figured out their bugaboo.
Mm-hmm.
They bounced back really well. 3, I have Carson and Jack. This was another team that I thought was going to do really bad, and they've done really, really well. They've done really, really well.
And you had Brett and Mark at 9th last week, I believe.
Yeah, correct.
So
I have Carson and Jack.
what does Colin Cowherd always say though?
If you don't
be a prisoner
of the moment. That's true.
There you go.
That's true.
Okay.
That's true.
Yep.
Well, you got me. We're only 3 weeks in. We're only 3 weeks in. I'm allowed to.
That's right. Absolutely.
His power rankings change every week. I've seen it.
It's your power rankings. Yep. That's right.
So Carson and Jack have really impressed me. I didn't think they were going to do this well. They have. So yeah.
Yep. No, that's true. 3 for me. I think I got to go with. Yeah, I think at this point I got to go with. I think I'm going to go Brett and Mark.
Okay.
Last week I had them at 1, and I still think they are top 3 team. It's probably just going to shuffle around there.
Mm-hmm.
They're a top 3 team for me. I had them at 1, and they really climbed this week, but I think I'm going to push them down just a little bit. Would it surprise me if they got up in the top 3 next week? No, not at all. So, right. But they're my number 3 team. All they did was nothing but good this week. So got them at 3. Probably should just keep them at 1. But the other 2 teams, I gotta give them some props this week. And then number 2, I actually got your team, Jonathan and Anna. They got the Express Pass, which was amazing. They did really well. I just see some cracks in the armor, and I feel like they're a very combustible team. Given the right circumstances, they could combust. But I got them at 2 though. They're my number 2 right now.
So 2, I have Scott and Lori. They've done nothing wrong. They've done really, really well every single week. I thought maybe this was a kind of a questionable one as far as their age went. I was like, okay, 40 in their mid 40s, not terrible, but they have a lot of kids, so that should be helpful. I got them at 2. They've done really, really well. 1 is my team, Jonathan Anna. Go ahead, call me a homer. The only reason why I have them at 1 this week is because of the Express Pass. We know that help them in the long run at some point, provided that they use it correctly at the right time. That's the only reason why I have Jonathan and Anna at 1. You're exactly right. They're on the verge of combusting. It's just going to be a matter of when. But yeah, I got Jonathan and Anna at 1. So.
All right, and then 1 I got Carson and Jack. They're probably of the best median out of all the teams right now. So I think they've been the most consistent, and I got to get them at 1. And they were almost first this week, or right behind Scott and Lori. So they're really rolling right now. So yeah, they are my number 1. So those are the power rankings this week. Let's talk about, well, we already talked about the driver's seat, but Calbert, why don't you fill us in for what? Oh, before I start that, we got to rate this episode, because I know off air you were telling me you didn't really like it. So what do you rate this episode?
I'm giving it a 5. Japan is the only reason why I'm giving it a 5.
Yes.
I thought both detours were just really hard for the 3rd episode.
Yeah.
Really, really hard. That knocked some points off for me.
Yep.
I didn't even know who got eliminated. I had a feeling Courtney and Jasmine were going to get eliminated. I thought they were going to get eliminated last week, actually, because of the taxi cab issue. So they got eliminated this week. Yeah, it's a 5 for me. It's the lowest one. It's the 3rd week. I know things are going to pick up. It'll be fine. But I didn't like this episode strictly because of the detour. I thought they were just too difficult for the 3rd episode. Really, I mean that's like an 8, 9, or 10 episode type meaning. meaning the number 8, 9, or 10, not ranking.
Sure.
Task to me, but that's just my opinion. So I give it a 5.
All right. I'm gonna give it. I think that as far as scenery goes, it wasn't the greatest. Some of it was cool, but I mean, the tasks were they were okay. But there was a decent amount of drama in this episode, so I'll give it like a 5.7 out of 10.
Okay, so
not the best, but definitely not the worst I've seen.
No. All right, let's talk about next week, shall we, real quick?
Yes.
Indonesia, specifically Bali, Indonesia. Racers travel to Bali, Indonesia, where the first team to arrive must make a difficult decision. That's it. That's all I got for you. The name of the episode is There's No Address in the Jungle. So.
Well, kind of cool. We're getting a jungle.
Yeah.
I'll say that.
Yeah.
The tasks look kind of interesting.
Yep.
So now Bali. Now for our history, or not history, but for our geographic experts, where is Bali, Calvert, on the map? Now I know that's still in Asia, right?
It is. It's in Indonesia.
Indonesia. Okay.
Yeah, I believe it is. I believe it's the capital of Indonesia, or one of them. Somebody will correct me in the comments later. I believe it's the capital, if I remember correctly off the top of my head.
Okay.
My Asian history professor is yelling at me as I speak. But yeah, it's generally a warmer, like tropical climate, which is why they look like everybody's sweating in the episode, because they
sure.
are. But
so
yeah,
it's gonna be like our Vietnam episodes.
Could be
almost.
like Vietnam. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Wow. Wow. I like the jungle settings. I really do. I think that's going to be fun.
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah, that does it for this week's recap. I think a lot of interesting stuff. Love the fact that we've gotten 3 different winners. Anything can happen, right? And especially with the driver's seat next week, I think we're in for some more drama. Keeps it fresh,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've liked this season so far. I just didn't like this particular episode. I know it'll pick up. It'll be fine. It is interesting. It's more wide open than I thought.
Yeah.
So which is good.
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, you could make an argument for almost probably 6 of the teams right now. You really could. Yeah. Maybe 5 for sure. But yeah, I think 6. I think it's a lot closer than some other seasons, and I think there's a lot of good teams in this season. So
yeah,
I think that's what makes for a really fun race. So I'm really digging this season, and I'm excited to see tomorrow's episode. So, any final comments, Calvert?
No, looking forward to next to tomorrow night and seeing what this driver's seat is all about and how difficult is the lead team going to make it for everybody.
Yes, absolutely. All right. Well, that was the review of episode 3 of Amazing Race 37 on Amazing Reviews. For Calvert, for Hurls, we will see you next week. Have a good one.
Have a good night, everybody.